future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of the Sunset Gower Studios with Universal Broadcasting Network, and then every Thursday on my syndicated CNBC News Radio channel KCAA on AM 1050 and FM 106.5, and also all over on TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube. So wherever you are, I am trying to splatter you with hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words on this show. No Kardashian talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So starting out with my traditional peace shout outs to excellent customer service, this time to the Wells Fargo folks in Claremont, and also a huge kudos to the movie Spotlight that won the Academy Awards. And I am very, very proud that I actually have had SNAP, the organization that the movie actually started in the documentary or the true story part of the story, and one of my Balance Life coaching clients, Chris, who came on and did a series of healing with me. He was abused by a priest when he was in his teens. And so if you've missed any of those episodes, please go on my YouTube and just type in Dr. Marissa and Snap or Dr. Marissa and Chris, and you'll be able to see those. And I'm just so grateful that they did get the recognition. It was a fabulous movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. So congratulations there. And my interviews that you've been waiting for to see are finally up. The Don Miguel Ruiz interview that I did on location at the Conscious Life Expo, as well as his son Don Jose Ruiz, their book The Fifth Agreement, and Don's book The Fourth Agreement, the one that was on the New York Times bestseller list for over 7.5 years. So please do go to my YouTube and just type in Dr. Marissa and Don Miguel, and you'll see those, as well as Master Shaw. Master Dr. Shaw is a healer, and he did an actual healing on camera. So you can enjoy those now at your leisure on my YouTube channel. And also, thanks to all of you, I now have over 45,000 views on YouTube. Just so grateful. And the hottest news about my CNBC News radio station, Dave Ramsey was there before I got there, and then now Stephanie Miller is there, as well as Wolfman Jack is coming. So that's another station for you to be tuned into. That's Thursdays at 7. And just a grateful shout out to the station owner, Fred, and station director Mark, and my fabulous sound engineer Carlos there. And then, of course, thanking my fabulous sound engineer and co-producer Jarvis Essex here, and the station owner Tony Sweet. So all kinds of gratitude and appreciation today, because it is my 200th week on the air. I know I did 200 shows with Neil Donald Walsh and Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith and Bishop Carlton. That was my 200th show, but it's actually today 200th week. And it is also the day after Leap Year Day, and I accidentally met someone whose birthday was on that day, his business partner, and that's Anthony Robbins. So Anthony is business partners with Joseph McClelland, and so they're going to be coming on later on this year. So you just never know what you're going to get on this show. But today we are actually delighted to have a topic that doesn't always bring you hope and happiness, and that is taxes. But I did want to bring an expert on to give us tips, because if we're going to try to make that whole process a little better and not quite so stressful, we want to hear from an expert. So I'm bringing you on Andrew Poulos, who's not your typical accountant. In fact, he's totally different from most accountants. He's an enrolled agent licensed by the U.S. Treasury to practice before IRS, and he's also been referenced as an expert by many sources, including Forbes, U.S. News World Report, U.S. Today, and AARP. As a regular media contributor, he's appeared on Fox Business Network, One American News Network, First Business News, and various nationally syndicated radio shows, including his own and mine. The Savvy Money Show is his show. Founder of the Poulos Children's Cancer Foundation charity, the passion he holds closest to his heart is the Georgia Special Olympics, where he worked with the mentally and physically disabled children. He calls it an emotionally uplifting experience that taught him about perseverance in life, no matter what obstacles are thrown your way. And we'll hear a little bit about how he overcame his as well. Please welcome to the studio, Andrew Poulos.
Thank you, Dr. Marissa. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. So before we get into the tax, because I do in doing my research on you, you yourself have come from that place where what is it? Pain is the touchstone of growth, and you have also experienced some less than positive things in life. Tell us about those, just to humanize you for my listeners.
Certainly, I'm probably just as common as everyone else when it comes to having, problems in life. I started the Children's Cancer Foundation, Poulos Children's Cancer Foundation, because cancer does run in my family. My father passed away when I was 11 from colon cancer, so it runs in the family. I've been operated on. One of my younger brothers has been operated on. I've certainly have gone through a lot, but I've learned that you've got to persevere from challenges and try to make the best of things as we all have issues in life.
Yes. And he's up there with my dad right now. My dad also had lymphoma. So the two of them, I'm sure, are watching us talk right
Probably.
now. All right. So let's jump into the topic at hand. So it's March now. We should be getting our 1099s. We need to file taxes. This is sort of the American side of the show. Sorry for my international listeners, but maybe you'll learn something about American tax system. April 15th, we're supposed to file. So the psychological side of me is going to ask, my first question is there any positive way to look at taxes?
Probably not, other than the fact that you're not the only one. So we are all in the same boat together. If we either do it now or we put it on extension, and then we have to face the music later on in the year, which is, again, it's still going to be there waiting for us. So
that's true.
Unfortunately, it's the task at hand this time of the year.
And if anyone wants a challenge, this is the way I also challenge my listeners for more hope and happiness. The same way that I did share, I think, a couple months ago about bills. If you hate paying bills and you hate that time of the month where you have to pay the bills, if you can look at bills as paying for things that you've gotten in advance, that might help bring that a little more positive. In the same way, if you look at taxes as sharing the money energy in bringing us things like good education, and I know that not all education is good, but let's focus on where the school systems are great and how we can bring the other school systems up, for healthcare, for all of the things that we share in our humankind. That's what taxes are about. So let's try that one on and see if we can make that more positive. So what is the biggest myth about taxes?
The biggest myth about taxes, Dr. Marissa, there's plenty of myths about taxes, but I'd say one that probably tops the list is that just because you go somewhere and you get a tax preparer that you pay for services, that your tax return will be correct, or that you can rely on that return without reviewing it before you send it in. People oftentimes think just because you're paying someone to do your taxes, that person knows more than you do. And unfortunately, in our industry, where we have probably somewhere between 60 to 70% of tax preparers who are unregulated, as the IRS refers to them, meaning they're not licensed. Those folks may, a lot of people, even licensed professionals, may not know more than the taxpayer themselves. So the myth is that if you get audited, that the tax preparer is basically responsible. The reality is we as taxpayers are responsible when we sign our name. So we have to know what is on the tax return, and we can't just turn a blind eye and assume that the return is correct because we paid someone to do it.
So how do you pick a good tax preparer?
Obviously the old saying of ask a friend or a family member, kind of try to get a referral.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not going to go that route, certainly doing research online. I always encourage, we're in the internet age. So if you jump online on Google and you research some tax preparers in your area, certainly you're going to get a good, bad, and ugly. And, you want to go with someone who's reputable, maybe has some good reviews, hopefully is licensed. And so do a little due diligence.
Tell me about the licensing. What does that entail? You have to go through schooling or?
Certainly, yeah. It depends. There's different types of licensures. So you have enrolled agents who are qualified tax professionals licensed by the U.S. Treasury. You have CPAs who are certified public accountants who are licensed by state accounting boards. And then you have tax attorneys. So those are the three licensure designations. Everyone else basically would be considered unenrolled, meaning that they're not licensed. So most people obviously have to go to school, have gotten some sort of education. A lot of tax preparers who are licensed have a background in accounting, but that's not to say all have a background in accounting. They could just specialize in taxation.
So you want to find out, are you licensed? That would be a good question.
Certainly. Is the person an EA, an enrolled agent, a CPA, or a tax attorney? If someone tells you that there's something other than that, they're probably not licensed, because those are the three designations.
So that's good to know. EA, CPA,
and a tax attorney.
And a tax attorney. Okay, great. What are some things that people should keep in mind if they choose to do their own taxes?
You got to keep in mind that what you're saving on the front end, meaning in tax preparation fees, could cost you on the back end if you get yourself in trouble. I certainly.
I have to qualify though. This is like asking a barber if you need a haircut. So you are, to put this on the table, you are a tax preparer. So of course, it's your expertise is going to be, something that you're going to recommend. That aside, it is a good idea.
That aside, there are folks who can do their own tax returns. Providing that your tax return is not complex, and you don't get into complex issues where you make mistakes and ultimately it costs you because you get a letter from the IRS and then you have to hire someone to try to help you out.
Right. So if someone and what is the threshold where you don't have to file taxes? Is there a threshold? Is that I heard that that might be a myth, that there's a certain amount, if you make below that, you don't have to file a return. Is that true?
Yeah, you're right. This year should be close to 14,000 basically. It's so that the poverty limit essentially is what we call it. So if you're below the poverty limit, then you're really not going to have a filing requirement because there's nothing there that you owe.
So if you're making under 14,000, you don't have to file. If you are if you have straightforward, like my daughter has a part-time job at a restaurant, and they take the taxes out, she should be able to fill the easy form out, right?
Correct. Yeah, the 1040 Easy, 1040A. Those are folks who don't have complex matters such as homeowners, real estate investments, stocks and bonds, and all that sort of complex stuff. Typically, will be able to file online using a tax software, save themselves a tax preparation fee, and probably are running a pretty good chance at not getting themselves in trouble.
Right.
So you have to be wise. It's like I always tell folks, like you said, you go into the barber, you're asking the barber, should you need to get a haircut, basically.
Right. And for those who've just tuned in and are wondering if I'm really talking about taxes, I am. And you are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And today I did want to talk about taxes because it's one of those necessary things that we do. And there are some things that we don't know. So I invited an expert, Andrew Poulos, to come on the air with me. And that's who's talking right now. So give me a range of tax preparation. Let's say for people who have the most simple, about how much should they budget or expect to be asked, and knowing that you do get what you pay for, but so my listeners can sort of prepare for it, like if you
arrange as far as tax preparation fees.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're going to have something simple, for example, such as your daughter, 1 or 2 W-2s, not a whole lot there. Pretty simple. Maybe you rent a home or an apartment. You don't really have much else. You can probably get away with a tax professional preparing something for maybe around $125. I would say depends on again who it is, what part of the country. That's the other thing that we always have to keep in mind. Certain parts of the country may be less expensive or more expensive than other parts of the country due to demographics and costs and whatnot.
So, what you're in what state?
I'm in Atlanta.
Okay, so is Atlanta more expensive than California? I mean, no one's more expensive. That's what I was afraid of. That's what I was afraid of. And then there's city tax too. So there's
correct.
Yeah.
So your expensive states are going to be for tax preparation: California, probably Chicago, New York. All your major cities. Atlanta's probably not too far behind, but we're certainly probably are not as expensive. I've seen some rates out in California and up in New York, and certainly they're tend to be a little pricier than what we are down here.
So 125 maybe in Georgia, and maybe 175 in California.
Yeah, but again, a couple W-2s, those are simple returns. In my mind, it shouldn't even be, even with a good licensed tax professional, it shouldn't get up to about $175 for something very, very simple. If you start getting into a somewhat moderately complex return, then yes.
Then yes, it's 175, or
then yeah, we're going to start climbing 175, maybe into the low 200 range.
Okay. So it's still like 125 would be the bottom, and then for very super complex, what, 700?
Then we start going up. It depends on the definition of complex. In our world,
what's the most expensive you've had? What's the most expensive one?
What's the most expensive that I charge or I see?
Yeah.
Look, I do a lot of corporate work, and then I have international clients. For example, I have a international real estate investor, and I won't say what country, but he invests here in the U.S. and he has upwards of 20 rental properties. That's a pretty complex and time-consuming project. So that's getting up into the several $1,000s range.
Right. Well, if you're gonna play, you got to pay.
Look, the way you got to look at it is if you have a couple $1,000,000 to invest in American real estate from overseas, then certainly you're not going to go cheap on your tax preparation fees because you want someone who's qualified.
Absolutely. Is he single? Sorry.
Actually, he's married.
Had to ask.
The only reason I know is because I have to ask for tax purposes.
Absolutely. Any other good stories? Any tax stories?
Look, I have lots of stories. Been in the industry 21 years. My job is, aside from tax preparation, I actually do tax representation, meaning that I represent taxpayers and businesses who may have tax issues, whether they're under audit or owe taxes. So I have, lots of
anything you can say. Anything you can say without naming names to protect the guilty.
I'll give you a great example. I have one of my biggest stories last year was a client who found me, a business who found me online and had gotten themselves into worker classification issues, meaning that they had misclassified their employees as independent contractors. They had gotten under audit by their labor department in their state, and then from there they figured out that the IRS might come knocking on the door. Basically making a short story, they came retained me for representation with the IRS, and we got the case settled to where the IRS would not audit them or reclassify their workers in the past. The business had exposure to probably well over $350,000, and we got the case settled for right under $1,300. So the stories like that are why I do what I do. It's not always the money, basically. It's the fact that I help someone, and I know that I basically have saved not only a business, but a lot of employees that work for that business now can still maintain their jobs.
Great. Now, how do you decrease the chance that you get audited?
That's one of the myths, that certain things will get you audited. The reality is that the way the IRS works is they program their systems every year to target certain types of returns, and a lot of times we don't know what those things are that they're looking for. But the best way to reduce your chances of getting audited is to always file a correct return. And if you do get audited for whatever the reason might be, if you filed an accurate return, everything is picture perfect, then really the IRS is not going to get anything out of you or make any adjustments. So you don't have to be worried. It's when you start doing the funny business that you are concerned, basically. So that's kind of what I always tell folks.
Right. So you said correct. So don't lie.
Well,
right?
Yeah, there's people that willingly omit some of their income thinking that the IRS is not going to find out about it.
Okay. What's the most common omission?
1099 income.
1099 income. So
what people need to realize is that these days the IRS has regulations in place that third parties such as employers, banks, and others basically report 1099s to the IRS. So although you may not get one, or you may have lost it and you think that you don't have to claim it, the IRS has it on file, and so their systems are getting pretty savvy nowadays, and you can't just omit 1099 income.
And then when you're paying people who are working for you, let's say my daughter, she does my graphic designs, and then she also helps bleep out any words that shouldn't be on a show that would violate the FCC on my CNBC channel. So how much can I pay her before I have to give her a 1099?
Anything over $600 or greater for the year
$600
would require you to give her a 1099. And what people don't often realize is they think if it's at least one payment of $600, but you could give her $50 a month, and on the 12th month, pay her $51 and get her to $601 for the year, and that basically would trigger a filing requirement.
Okay, got it. And then it's funny, the correctness or what you should or should not do. I sat beside a tax attorney on the way back from my last flight in Australia, and she says it's amazing how some of her clients, like they think they are what's the word, like they don't have to file, or they don't have to, like her most common. I asked her, what is your most common communication to your clients? And she said, you really have to pay your taxes. I said, that's it? And she says it's amazing how many people think they're exempt from having to pay taxes. Is that your experience?
You would be surprised as to the number of people that come to me for preparation and representation that have not filed taxes in 5, 10, 12, 15 years. It's incredible. What I find is that usually when someone falls off the bandwagon, so to speak, due to some sort of hardship usually is where it begins. Then it just snowballs out of control, and before they know it, they've gone without filing taxes for 5 to 10 years very, very quickly. So that is my experience as well.
Right. Now, going back to the question about what triggers an audit. So I know that there's an algorithm that you obviously aren't privy to, or we'd all be coming to you. But the what triggers the correctness? One is the 1099. What other triggers would you say?
I can tell you some of the triggers that I know that I know about.
That would be great.
Charitable contributions is a hot topic right now for the IRS, meaning donations.
Okay.
So there's what we call the cash and non-cash donations. Obviously, the cash, you got to be able to prove it. The non-cash is where people can typically end up kind of exaggerating it a little bit as far as how much they donated. And what a lot of times Someone like me, for example, the difference between myself and someone doing self preparation and using the software is not going to be able to speak to you and tell you that you're going too high, or your non-cash donations or don't make sense compared to your income. If you make, for example, $30,000 a year and you're trying to claim $5,000 in non-cash donations, that doesn't even make sense. How can you even give away $5,000 of fair market value in goods if you're living on paycheck to paycheck, for example? So it's the common sense approach that folks like myself who are in the business basically bring to the table for our clients.
Yeah, I learned that the donations where you fill out the amount yourself, like
Yes,
Salvation Army or Goodwill, are not
exactly.
as good as places. And this is what I've been donating to Council for Jewish Women. Is they itemize, and those are less suspect.
Correct.
So,
None of this, we have to keep in mind that with non-cash donations, no matter where you donate, which organization or charity, you don't submit that to the IRS, the list of what you donated, but you got to be able to back it up if that time comes. And that's where, again, if it doesn't kind of pass the smell test initially, when you're preparing a return, then you're asking potentially for problems. And that's kind of where I look at it as I look at my clients' lifestyle. I look at their income. I ask myself, and my client, could you have reasonably donated all this stuff as a fair market value? We have to always keep in mind with donations that when we tell the IRS we've donated $1,000 of something, that's not your cost. You're telling the IRS that's what those goods are worth at the thrift store or at a garage sale, for example, a flea market sale, which means that your cost probably would have been 3 to 4 times more, 5 times more. And is that believable at that point?
that's a great formula. Thank you. Thank you for that tip. I'll remember that one. and then for the cash donations, is there ever if you're going somewhere and you're tithing 10% and it looks like a lot, is that also a trigger?
Yes, I've actually had clients that have come to me for audit representation who got specifically audited for donations and cash donations. I always tell my clients I have no problem representing against the IRS in an examination and an audit for anything, especially when I have good records and my client has donated that. So, if someone wants to give 10 or 15% of their income to a church or to charity, there's nothing to say that you can't do that. Again, it all comes down to record keeping. And the place that folks, Dr. Marissa, get in trouble with cash donations, and this is there's been tax law about this in a court case in tax court, is there's a case out there that people need to be aware of, which essentially the taxpayers lost the case and they lost in tax court because they didn't have their letter from the church or the charity. Once they got under audit, they went back and requested another copy, and their donation was disallowed, and it was to the tune of over $23,000. It was disallowed because the letter they got was dated after they filed their return. So the law tells us that if we have cash donations, we need to have our substantiation, our record keeping, our letters from the organizations, the churches, or the charities dated prior to us filing the return. I've actually put in the last few years since this came out, I've put tax returns on extension to allow my clients sufficient time to go back and request copies that they were missing because there were large donations in order to protect my client. So that is one of the big keys that people need to be aware of, which you're not going to know this stuff just by Googling online or doing your own tax return.
Right. Excellent. So we're going to take a break and come right back for some more questions with Andrew Poulos and about taxes and how we can alleviate a little bit of stress around it by being armed with some more knowledge. So it is that time of the show where we thank our sponsors that make this show possible. We'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in and peace out.
No way! I'm so cool. I'm so hot. I'm so hungry. I'm so full.
Did that complaining sound familiar to you? Hi, I'm Dr. Marissa, your cheerleader for Hope and Happiness 88% of the time. And they also call me the Asian Oprah. Well, I have a perfect app for you if you want to lose negative weight and stop complaining. Yes, the 21-day Fast from Complaining with Dr. Marissa app is now available. Every day you'll get a balanced tip that keeps you from complaining, as well as some sound effects. If you do complain and you press a button, it will give you sound to keep you from complaining. And if you make it the entire day without complaining, you'll get a nice warm hug. And there's a YouTube link also to help you not complain. And then at the end of the 21 days, because it takes 21 days to create a good habit, you'll get an overall score as well as a way to post your triumph with your friends and family on Facebook. So don't complain, have fun, and remember it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
Peace out.
If you think you don't have the money to start your own business, then I have fantastic news. Now you can own a business that has proven to be a phenomenal success all around the country with very little upfront investment. We're talking the Selfie Station. Selfie Station is a portable touchscreen photo booth that people and businesses book for weddings, corporate functions, trade shows, proms, promotional events, parties, and more. Selfie Station captures lifelong memories that can be emailed, texted, printed, personalized, and even uploaded to social media. You won't believe how much people will pay you to make your business the life of their party. It's the easiest income you'll ever earn and pays for itself in no time at all. You can start your own business right now. Let Selfie Station be the picture taker, icebreaker, and your moneymaker. Now, as a special introductory offer, you get $500 off the professional package. That's right, $500 off. SelfieStationPodcast.com. Type in the name of my show, Dr. Marissa, so I can get credit, please. Thank you. SelfieStationPodcast.com. That's SelfieStationPodcast.com. And get ready to make money today. And we are back, and you are tuned in to my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon on Universal Broadcasting Network out of the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, California, and Thursdays on my CNBC syndicated news radio channel, KCAA AM 1050 and FM 106.5. And today we are talking about death, taxes, hope, and happiness. Actually, only 3 out of the 4. It is about taxes and hope and happiness. And Andrew Poulos, a tax expert who's often on Fox and other news networks giving his expert advice, is here with the Asian Oprah, giving you, my listeners, some expert advice. And we've had a couple of tips so far. And continuing on with that, is there anything else that my listeners need to know? I know that one clip you did with Fox talked about tax software. So I guess it would be good to spend a minute there. And is it? Although I've heard already in your subtext that even if you use a software, it may not catch things that someone who's an expert would know.
Correct. But again, to be fair, there are plenty of people who can file their own tax return using an online tax software, because there's plenty of folks who just have very simple returns. Okay. So that, I'm not trying to convince someone or sway someone to go prepare have someone prepare their tax return when they only have one W-2 or 2 W-2s, and it's quite simple. Right. I'm looking at how to protect other folks who have more complex returns.
Got it. So for simple returns, what's the best software?
TurboTax.
TurboTax, okay.
TurboTax ranks on top of my list this year of my nationally syndicated tax software picks. Number 2 would be H&R Block, and TaxAct comes in number 3. And then from there, they just there's plenty of others that just go down the list.
Great. Any other tax tips before I ask you about the other topic of money?
Yeah, start early. We're still in the season where it's considered early. Folks should get started early. Don't procrastinate because that just makes the experience even worse. It never seems to amaze me the number of people that wait till beginning of April or 5 or 10 days before when we have the same tax deadline every year after year. So
Right.
procrastination makes it way much worse. And the thing is that most folks, no matter how good they are, when they go to their tax preparer or their accountant, might be missing a document here or there. And this year, with the new healthcare laws, with the Affordable Care Act laws and proof of health insurance, there's documents there that are needed. So if you start early and you're missing something, you still have time. If you wait till the 11th hour and you're missing something, then you're putting yourself in a jam.
I've always wanted to be a procrastinator, but I never got around to it.
I'm a procrastinator simply because I take care of my clients first, and then I'm the last one in line.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I hear you. Yeah. So what is this new form?
The 1095A, B, and C. It's depends on whether you have health insurance through the marketplace exchange or through your employer. You should be getting a 1095A, B, or C, and that's your proof of that the tax preparer is going to need when completing your tax return to know whether you were insured for health insurance in 2015 for the full year, partial year, how many months, so forth and so on. So that's one of the new requirements that we need, and it's just kind of the season has kind of started off at a challenge because of that.
Yeah, and if we focus on the positive side, it's because we want a way to ensure that everyone has health care. The downside is it is more paperwork.
It is more paperwork. Obviously, they bundle it into the taxes, unfortunately, so it creates more paperwork for us and for our clients, for taxpayers out there. But obviously, the reality is that hopefully we're trying to get to a place in this country where people are insured and they can have somewhat of affordable health insurance.
Right. Now, where do they get this form from, or where should they have gotten it from?
It's going to be coming if they have their own insurance through Marketplace Exchange, through basically the Affordable Care Act website. Then the government's going to send them the 1095A. If they have insurance through their employer or a private insurance company, then either the insurance company or the employer will provide 1095B or C. So it's coming from a third party base.
Okay. So if you have not received that, now is probably the time to look into that.
Yes, and there are a lot of employers, and not to interrupt you, but the IRS has given an extension of from January 31st to March 31st to a lot of employers this year. So everyone's just kind of running behind, and that's why I said we're seeing just a bunch of challenges right now.
I just got my question answered, because I normally get my 1099s from my consulting pretty much like right before the end of January, and I still haven't seen them. So I had to follow up, and now I understand why some of them might be late.
It's a challenging year, to put it mildly.
Well, there's an opportunity in every challenge, right? That's a Chinese thing. Great. And then you have a radio show, Savvy Money Talk. What would be the top 3 pieces of advice for my listeners on managing money better?
Obviously, top one on my list is always you've got to work within some sort of budget. Folks oftentimes don't set any budget. They get their paycheck and then they just try to figure out where their money has gone. I'm a big proponent of people working within a budget. So you pretty much live within your means. You don't spend more than you're earning, but when it's on paper or using an app or using your computer software or something where you can actually put it on paper essentially and you see it. This is how much you're bringing in. This is how much is going out. You can see where it's going to. Is it going to food? Is it going to healthcare? Is it going to your payment, your mortgage payment, your apartment rent? Where is it going to? When you see it on paper, people oftentimes are surprised at really where their money's going and how much of it oftentimes we waste just on things that we don't need to be wasting.
Yeah, I know. It's the B word, budget, but it's a good word. And I have a little thing that I do where when I have money and when I get a check, I take $100 bill and I leave it in my wallet. And I have that feeling of abundance, and I say I could buy that, but I choose not to right now. And that way I'm not always affirming that I don't have enough money, because I have the money, but I'm choosing where I am spending that money energy. So that's a little bit of I actually got that from Esther Hicks and Abraham. So So just a little tip for my listeners who are experience temporary challenge, that you can still, you have the money. It's just that the money that you have, you have a level of discernment on where you want to spend that money. But it was a very powerful thing for me to sit down and go, okay, how much is going to my Starbucks in the morning? How much is going to, and when you do those categories, it's not just at tax time, but it allows you to get some
No,
balance. Yeah.
exactly. If you do it year round, you really take a good hard look at where your money's going. It's one thing just to kind of spend it, and another thing to see it on paper and realize that you're spending. A lot of times, again, we're spending on things that we don't really need. I always tell clients, tell me what you need versus what you want. I want a lot of things in life too, but I won't go get in debt to go get them because they're not necessary. So that's the difference between basically folks who are financially savvy versus folks who get themselves in trouble.
Right. And again, I like to just suggest to my listeners that it's not about, I've done something wrong, but it is about feeling good. So I know I feel better if I don't owe a lot of money. And I feel really not good if I buy something in the spur of the moment and then realize that I'm going to owe to pay that off. So it's not necessarily the morality. I mean, it is the morality, bankruptcy and all of that. And then I don't want to talk about Donald Trump, but any man that's running for president who's been bankrupt so many times for business reasons, I just don't understand. But that's another topic. but on that feeling good plane. So when you were talking, Andrew, about budgeting and that little bit of reality, I don't really want to talk about that, but it is about feeling good, about making money, and then using what you've made in order to purchase something that brings you some joy. But I think, watching Big Short, the whole the housing crisis as well as our debt crisis, as we do need that balance. We have to come back and take some responsibility around, where am I sort of turning a blind eye to the bills that are coming in, but I have no problem spending everything that I want, even when I don't have the money. So I think as Americans, we're getting to that balanced place of let's not punish ourselves and say we can't do anything, but let's not go to the other extreme and spend things that we really can't afford at the time.
You're absolutely right.
At the time. Another money tip.
Another money tip. Try to save. My rule of thumb is I'd like to see folks save at least 10% of what they earn. That obviously is not possible for everyone, but try to save something from every paycheck. It's huge. You want to have a little nest egg, whether it's for an emergency, a rainy day sort of savings fund. Something always comes up for all of us. I don't care whether we make a lot of money or a little bit of money. We all have challenges that come up in life. So we need to be able to save a little something. Not only will you feel better knowing that you have that little savings built up and it's building up every week or every 2 weeks that you get paid, but you also are building up a nest egg for either for retirement, for investment purposes, or for a variety of things.
Right.
So that's always something I highly encourage to everyone, and especially those that are young. Look, when you develop good habits, basically they go a long way. If you develop bad habits, then it's very challenging to break out of those bad habits, no matter what the age is.
Yes. Just had an interesting question pop into my head. You work with people a whole range of people on the money spectrums, people who make small amounts and people who make tons of money. Do you see any correlation with happiness and money?
What I always have seen and I've found in life that even those who make a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that they're extremely happy in life. So money is not the end all. Certainly, money goes a long way to be able to live a comfortable lifestyle, but we got to be able to be happy in other ways. So I don't necessarily see that, just because someone has a lot of money versus someone who is just a middle class family is going to be any happier. My Greek mother always says that money isn't everything in life, and I certainly have learned from her. She raised five of us on very little money, and certainly she did a good job, and she maintained our happiness. So I certainly think
So
that
you
we
have
can,
seen that play out in your clients as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. I have
Good.
clients who are very wealthy and miserable, and I have clients who don't have a whole lot basically and live happier lifestyles than others. So it's we bring it upon a lot of the things we do in our life. We bring it upon ourselves.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I did, and one of the reasons why when you asked to come on the show, I said yes, was looking at your cancer foundation. Tell me a little bit about that.
The Cancer Foundation is an organization, and I had launched it. We've gotten approved by the IRS as a 501c3, which means that we can raise tax-free donations from folks in our organizations. But the purpose of it is to help families who have a child suffering with cancer and need financial assistance with everything as far as expensive health care costs and high deductibles these days that everyone has. It becomes financially challenging for families when they have all of a sudden just a urgent matter with their child suffering from any type of cancer. So Poulos Children's Cancer Foundation basically is there to be able to raise money and help financially to families that have a need, whether it's to help them with airfare, travel accommodations, or anything else. Basically, that's kind of one side of it. The other aspect of the organization is going to be to where we raise enough money over a 5 or 10 year period, and we start purchasing properties around children's hospitals across the country, and we develop short-term living facilities for families to live for free when they're getting cancer treatment at the children's hospitals.
And that's beautiful. And that came from your experiences with cancer. On a personal level with your family, and then taking the money that you have and doing something that is, you're like the tax Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah.
And
it's basically, as you said earlier, money is not everything in life, and I'm to a point in my career where I, do well and I help my clients, but I just wanted to do something better in life. I want to, one day when I leave this earth, pretty much I want to be able to at least leave happy and say that I've helped many other people besides just doing it for a living and making money at it.
Beautiful. And with that, I am awarding you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award.
Well, thank you.
That's wonderful. So we are at the end of the show. Any last word that you would have for my listeners as far as tax and money?
Tax and money. Be wise with your money. Don't spend on what you don't need. And with taxes, I always encourage everyone to work with a qualified licensed tax professional who can try to lower their tax liability and help them with strategic tax moves, basically, to better themselves in the future. So sometimes we can't help the past, but we have to change the future.
Absolutely. And how do people find you?
Folks can find me either online on my website, which is savvytaxguy.com, or they can call toll free at 888-9-POULOS.
888-9-POULOS, Poulos, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Wonderful. And how do they, if they're looking for a place to donate this year, how would they donate to your charitable?
They can donate online to our charity. We've got a great website at helpachildwithcancer.org. It's also the PoulosFoundation.org, but the vanity name to remember it easy is helpachildwithcancer.org, and it's all done online on our website. We have it structured to where folks who donate will automatically get emailed with their tax donation letter. That way everyone's compliant for tax purposes. We certainly welcome donations, whether they're $25 or thousands of dollars. It's all going to help families who have a need.
Beautiful. Wonderful. And what is my Asian Oprah giveaway today that you were so kind?
The Asian Oprah giveaway. It's I've produced the QuickBooks Ultimate Lesson Guide, which is a QuickBooks training DVD for small business owners and people trying to manage their money. It's 16 hours of training, and we're giving a couple of those away to your listeners today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
For all others that don't win the giveaway, they can again, they can contact us and purchase a copy at a reduced price of $99, and we pay for shipping.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you got that here. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you, Dr. Marissa, for having me.
Absolutely. All right, and it's time for Balance Bar to just to reiterate and know if you would like one of the two tax gifts that he just mentioned, Andrew Poulos, just go to forbalance.org and put in the subject line tax help. And the first two that do that will get a copy. And then if you miss the giveaway, and I will send you the link to his site that you can ask for a discounted copy because you mentioned Dr. Marissa. And what else do I have from the Balance Bar? Really quickly, the 21-day fast from complaining with Dr. Marissa started today, round 57. So today is Self-Awareness Day. You do not get penalized if you do complain, but please do get my app to help you out for this round, and it's on Google Play. No complaints, ! Or 21-day fast in the Apple Store as well. And if you don't like it, it is a money-back guarantee of the 99 cents. Also, Sedona, come play with me. Come learn balanced Tai Chi Gong in the beautiful vortexes, May 14th and 15th. Again, go for more information for balance.org. And next week, let's see, we've got, where are we? To the second week. Oh, we have a special guest next week, and that is Gerard Powell, the CEO of Rhythmia Center in Costa Rica, whose story is heartbreaking and heartwarming for anyone who's experienced firsthand the debilitating unhappiness that comes even with enough money to buy anything you want. So what we just talked about money. So keep it tuned. To take my advice, I'm not using it. Get balance with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
To take away the part of me that wants to stay. It's all I want, to hear my life and sing along. For without it, there's no laughter, no tears, lonely days after.